Hello, friends. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me today for part 2 of my interview with Jody O'Meara. Part 1 will be linked in the description, where Jody shares her amazing near-death experience with Jesus. And I am so excited to bring you the second half of this interview, where we do a Q&A. Jody will be sharing some more spiritual experiences that she has had with helping people cross over. She will be sharing what Jesus is to her and how he helps her in this process, as well as her perspective on what the purpose of life is, what is happening in the hellish near-death experiences that some people have, and what happens to those on the other side who have not lived the best lives and have issues to work through. Jody's Facebook page will be linked in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. I guess let's talk about Jesus first. So you mentioned that you're not religious, but you did have this profound experience with Jesus. So how do you see him, and what role does he play for you now?
So for me, he is a guide. He's one of my guides. So often you'll hear mediums or spiritual people talk about having guides who help them if they get messages from people who've passed over, or help them help people who have passed over go into the light, right? If you told me this sort of thing was going to happen to me, that I was going to be doing this stuff years ago, I would have just laughed at you. I would have said, no, it's not going to happen to me. So yeah, the fact that then Jesus is my guide and I am not religious and never was, is just this added kind of bit of a laugh, really, isn't it? You can't help kind of giggling about it. And for a long time, every time I mentioned what had happened to me, my story, and then started to realize that he was sticking around and that he was helping me with these types of spirits, I guess you want to call them, that was really tough. I found that really tough, because what you have to understand in my family, and I don't mean to offend anybody here, but in my family, we were cool about other people believing in their religion and practicing their religion. But behind closed doors, we kind of also took the mickey out of it a bit. So for me to come out to my family and say, I've met Jesus, I had this experience with Jesus, and now he hangs out with me, it was really hard. And to even say that to myself, I was like, no, that's just off the chart. That's bizarre. And it doesn't, for me, mean that I have this amazing special connection with Jesus, that I can answer all your questions, that I have this amazing special ability compared to other people. It's not like that at all. What he often does is, when I meet difficult spirits or spirits who are in torment, he's the one that steps in for those ones, because they're quite difficult and they take a lot out of me to help them pass over. So I call him and he steps in and he helps. He's the one that can help those types of spirits. He'll often introduce me to them, and he's sort of, for me still, he's told me that it's very nice that people worship him and go to church for him, and he said that's lovely, but it's not necessary. He doesn't feel that it's necessary. He said he literally said to me, it's all very nice, it's very nice, but it's not necessary. So I don't feel I need to do that, because that was a big thing that sat with. I said to him, well, am I supposed to start going to church? What am I supposed to do with this? And he said, oh, no. It's all very nice. It's all very nice than that, but you don't need to do that. No. So I don't feel that way about him. I feel, for me, he's like my friend. And for me, he's like a really, what's the word? Advanced being. That's how I would describe it. And I think talking about this stuff too, I think there's people out there that sensationalize this stuff. They make it more difficult than it needs to be. I think everybody has a little bit of this in them, and even that connection that they have with God or Jesus and going to church. And when you're in church, I've seen people go to church and you can tell they're having that connection, that time with that higher spirit or that special person that they believe in, right? You can feel it, you can see it in their eyes and how much they love them. That's it. That's that connection. That's it. That's the connection. And that's when he's helping these spirits who need it, that's the connection I'm having. I'm just not having it in a church. I'm not having it through the Catholic tradition of taking the bread and the wine, and I'm just not doing it that way. I'm just doing it in a different way, and I don't see him as the be all and end all, the one person. He's just one of many. So that's how I view it.
That leads to a couple more questions for me. The first one, I guess, would be that, and I can relate to this too, because I was raised in a religious environment, that many people do feel that they need to worship and fall at Jesus' feet or whatever, but that's not actually what he wants from us or what the divine wants from us. So did he give you any indication of what this life is about, or what we do need to do while we're here?
Yeah, I believe from the things that I've been shown, from all the different spirits that I've met, from the different experiences that I've had, and I've had some pretty crazy ones, is that we are here to get to know ourselves more fully, to find compassion for ourselves, to have self-love, not in a selfish way, but in a healthy way with boundaries, really healthy boundaries. And that the biggest relationship you will have your whole entire life, the one that will never end until you pass over, is the relationship you have with yourself. And you are the most important person. This is your movie or your book, so to speak, right? So my belief is that we are here to get to know ourselves more fully, to come into our own, and we will go through trials and tribulations. We will go through some really tough stuff. But what that will do is expand us. We will expand through those experiences. And we need to learn to sit with those experiences, those tough times, and go through them and not be so hard on ourselves, to be compassionate towards ourselves, to be kind towards ourselves, and to give ourselves that love. Because that love, if you keep looking outwards and you keep looking to others, you're always going to feel like your cup's never full enough. You're always going to feel like you're searching for something and you can't find it. A lot of people talk about having a purpose. What's my purpose in life? Why am I here? What's my purpose? I need to find my purpose. Just being here is your purpose. Just giving kindness, love, smiling at someone. Just those little, I call them sprinkles, like little star sprinkles. You don't know what that's meant to that person in their life for that day. You don't know what that smile or that good morning, you don't know what that's meant to that person. If someone cuts you off in the traffic and you just go, oh, whoops, you made a mistake. Instead of getting all angry, you just go, oh, that person made a mistake. You're cool. That's okay. Then you don't know what flow-on effect that has. You know what I mean? It's all has a flow-on effect. We all affect other people, and the people that love us affect us, and they do the same for us. I mean, yourself, if you're at the shops and someone smiles at you and chats, it just kind of lifts you up. It might not lift you right up so that you're feeling amazing, but it just lifts you a little bit. So it's those little things, and you'll have people come into your life that just do little things. They might they might bring a book to you and say, or they might show a book to you and say, hey, you should read this. And this book that you read is like, oh my God, it's so profound in your life. You're like, this is the book I've been looking for, or this speaks to my soul. It speaks to me in a way, and it tells me something I've already been feeling or knowing, but it's kind of solidifying it in a book, things like that. You might watch a movie and there's just a couple of sentences in the movie and it just speaks to your soul. And you go, oh my God, I always thought that. And that's confirmation. To me personally, that is spiritualism. That is God, that is Jesus speaking to you through those little messages, through those other people, and confirming you, confirming that inner knowing that you have of yourself and your beliefs and your values and your truth.
The other question I had is that you mentioned that for some of the harder cases, I think was the wording that you used, you call and Jesus helps you. And that's very interesting to me because I've interviewed a few people who have had hellish near-death experiences, and it does seem to come up quite often that Jesus is the one who will come and help them transition out of that space. So I'm wondering if maybe the hellish experiences are experiences where people are stuck. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. I can give you a really good example. There was a woman, I've never met her in my life. She's from the past. She turned up in my dreams, and I had this dream. And when I dream like this, I'm aware I'm dreaming. So I'm aware of it, and I can engage with that. So I can ask questions and I can think in my head, what is this? Where is this? Who is she? Things like that. So in this dream, I was following her and she kept staring at me, and she was the most intense person. She was quite frightening. She felt bad. She felt not evil, not in that way, but really sad, really heavy, really, I would say, dark, like when you see someone all dressed in black and you just know they're depressed, like you can see it, you can feel it on them, you can see it in how they're behaving and things like that. So it was like that. And she had this beautiful white top on with a big ruffle neck, like it came up quite high. She had a beautiful dark green skirt on. It was very long, and she had this chain with keys hanging off it, all these keys, loads of keys. She looked very, very looking back now, I'd say Victorian almost type sort of time frame. She had her hair back in a bun at the back of her neck and a very straight, thick fringe, and it was very dark hair. Her eyes were very dark, and she was just really intense. So she kept staring at me, and I just knew I needed to follow her, and I was really curious about her. I couldn't stop looking at her. And so I followed her and I saw her stop at the foot of these stairs, and they're the most amazing stairs. They were these beautiful old-fashioned grand stairs that went up into the upper part of the building. And all these people were partying around her. So there was people in tuxedo looking, well, like they looked like old-fashioned tuxedos with top hats, and and women in these most amazing gowns, and they were all partying. They had champagne, and they just completely ignored her. They didn't even notice her. And she looked at me before she went up the stairs, and then as she went up the stairs, she went really slowly. She kept staring at me, and I knew she wanted me to follow her, but I didn't want to follow her. I was too scared to follow her. I thought, this woman there's something not right here. And so I went to the foot of the stairs and watched her go up. And then a blonde lady on my side, I said to her, who is that woman? And she went, who? And I said, that woman, who's that woman? And she said, oh, that's just somebody, I don't know. Nobody knows who she is and why she's here, really. And I was like, oh, okay. So then next she showed me, she led me out onto the street. So all of a sudden I was out on the street, and the street was like those old fashioned ones, sort of, it looked like compacted dirt. And she was showing me this park across the road. It's like a big botanical garden is how I would describe it, with this path going into the park down like that, with all these amazing trees lining this path. And she kept staring and staring at me, and I was like, I knew she wanted me to go with her. So I followed her, and next minute we were going down this path, and the path warped. It kind of warped in a really weird, and it was all dark. And I stopped and I said to her, I know where you're taking me. I know what you've done, and I'm not going down there. So what she wanted to show me was that she had taken her own life, and that she had done it down there. But I didn't need to see that. I said to her, I don't need to see that. I know what you've done. And she flew up into my face, right up into my face like this, and yelled at me and said, nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about me. I've got no one. And so she showed me, and then I got a feeling. So I get a feeling with it. So she had been an orphan, no mother, no father, nobody cared about her. She pulled herself up through life, but nobody noticed her. She had no friends. She couldn't relate to people. People didn't like her. People didn't warm to her. She just felt so, she was a very unusual person, and not one that people would warm to because of her upbringing and her life. And so she just didn't fit. And so she had thought if she took her life, that things would be better. And of course, they weren't better. She was stuck.
Mm-hmm.
She was still stuck in that torment and that anger that nobody loved her, that feeling of isolation and all that turmoil and pain. So she was stuck. So I called on Jesus and I said to him, at first I said to her, do you want me to help you pass over? And she said, there's no one to pass over to. There's no one to go to. There's no one waiting for me. There's no one waiting there. And there was no one. And I felt so sorry for her. There wasn't even any ancestors or anything. She was just so isolated. And so she felt so dark. And so I called on Jesus and I said to her, look, just have a feel of what it feels like over there. This is what it's going to feel like. And so I got him to just stand beside her. I didn't tell him to do that. He just stood beside her. And he just stood there impatient. He didn't look at her, nothing. He just looked out at me, but he just stood beside her. And then we just stood like that for a while so that she could feel him and feel that love and feel that all those nice feelings. She'd never felt that before. And then I said to her, would you like to go? Would you like to go, with Jesus? And she said, she just went, there was no yes. It was just suddenly they both went whooshing up past my right shoulder. And I just felt this amazing feeling. And then I woke up and I was like, oh, she's gone. She's done. She's gone over. We have a human life. We have a very human part to us. And then we have our soul. And we have these experiences in life. And for some reason, humans, we've developed in a way socially that we're scared of bad times. We're scared of pain. We're scared of going through hardship. And we're scared of not being loved or, all those things. And we don't sit well with it. So when we lose babies or we lose a person that we love in our life, we fight it. And we fight against it. We might take drugs, alcohol, we might numb ourselves, we might buy all sorts of stuff and fill our houses up like hoarders do, or we try and avoid those feelings at all costs because they're uncomfortable and they don't feel good. But if we can give ourselves self-compassion, be kind to ourselves, turn to the people that we know we can trust, or turn to the professionals that we know we can trust, we will get the help we need if we just ask for it. And we will go through those times. We will go through, I've been through really tough stuff. Just because I had a near-death experience and I have a guide who I believe is Jesus doesn't mean I haven't been through really awful stuff since. I've lost babies. I've lost 3 sets of babies. And I went through a really difficult time and I went quite agoraphobic. I wouldn't go out of the house. I had a really difficult time with it. And it has come to bite me again at different times in my life, depending on what's happening in my life. So, yeah, life doesn't suddenly get all beautiful and wonderful. I've lost people too. I've lost people to suicide as well. And the guilt that goes with that, you keep thinking there was something you should have done or could have done for that person. So yeah, you're going to go through hardship. If you can just be really self-compassionate and really kind to yourself and really truthful with yourself and learn to sit with those uncomfortable times, to go through them, that is all part of your growth. Read books, talk to people, go to groups that can help you process that grief, process that loss, process that pain, reach out, be vulnerable. then, and just go through it. You're going to do some crazy stuff. You probably do some really stupid stuff. It's okay. That's being human. That's our human side. And your soul is growing and learning and evolving and expanding through that. And then, some of that stuff also happens on the other side. So for people like people who commit suicide, their expansion carries on over the other. So if they're stuck, obviously they need help passing over. But if they do go over, they go through a process as well of coming to grips with their life, the choices they made, why they did what they did, all the pains and the hurts that they had. So either you can do a bit of that here or a lot of it here, and you'll still end up doing some of it over there and being caretaken over there as well. So that's kind of the stuff I've seen, and that's what I believe.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and especially for being so vulnerable about your own struggles, because I know that will be really helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about me. I think from people I've spoken to is I don't sugarcoat all this. I don't say to people, I don't set myself up as this amazing medium who has all these abilities and, God speaks to me or Jesus speaks to me. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. For me, it comes and goes. At the moment, I'm in a quiet period, and I kind of always think, that's it, it's over. It's finished, it's done. But it's not necessarily. And I've learned to just let it flow and not to try and control it, and just let it happen when it happens. And I learn something from each and every experience that I've had. I piece little things together, and I view life and relationships and people and why we're here very differently to a lot of other people, I think. I have a bit of a different take. And some people, they talk about the light and the dark and evil things. And I've come across evil things. I don't call them evil. I just think they're dark and they're scary. But some scary, dark things aren't what they first appear. They have their place in the world as well. We go through dark times. We go through light times. There are dark experiences. There are light experiences. So I think, for me personally, I don't know if you're religious, Melissa, but religion has put, and scary movies, particularly scary movies, put on that stuff that it's evil, that either, that there's the devil or God or, those sorts of things, and that's very black and white. But I don't view it like that.
Would you like to explain how you do view that? I remember you saying in another interview too, the dark energy was not demons or whatever we're taught in religion.
No. Often the dark energy is spirits that are tormented or stuck or have had a really, really, really awful experience or pain. And they're a bit like us when we're in our human life and we drink alcohol or we have drugs to try and numb. They try to numb their feelings even though they've passed over. So they'll get stuck in a place or a space, or they'll float around even. Some of them can float around and they'll attach themselves to objects, or they'll even attach themselves to you. If they see that you're a certain type of person that they feel some sort of an affinity with, they might attach themselves to you. They might be in a house that you've bought and they just happen to be there. We all know about those. And I get really frustrated with scary movies. I can't watch them because they annoy the hell out of me, because I just think, you're scaremongering people so that when they meet a spirit like this, they're going to completely freak out. They're not going to help the poor thing. And, some spirits want to be there. Some spirits are attached and they don't want to pass over. I've had spirits like that. They just don't want to pass over. That's where they want to be. That's where they're stuck. That's where they feel they've had some sort of experience, and that's where they feel an affinity with. So so be it. But there are also spirits that are really strong with that. And so they might feel dark. They might feel heavier. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're different. And so they can have a strength that can help you when you are dealing with the darker energies. So they can be a strength for you. They can be your friend, actually. This probably sounds pretty whack, but I've had, like, say, for example, I had a Japanese warrior. And when I first met him, he scared me. Like, his feeling and his energy was so scary. I can't even describe what it was like. And I just wanted to run. But when I actually just sat with him and let him be there, even though it felt really uncomfortable, like more than uncomfortable, when I actually just accepted him being there, he is actually a big strength for me. And he's a big part of me. He helps me, and he empowers me, is how I would probably put it, to go into certain places and spaces and be okay, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that I don't go into spaces and places and not get scared, because I do. I have, just like everybody else, I'll freak out a little bit. This stuff's not easy, and I don't go looking for it either. If it happens, it happens. So there's things like that. I've had fights with something that it's attached itself to me. I think other people might be able to relate to that. If they've had a really awful experience like that. I have had fights with things, but those other deeper energies, like that Japanese warrior, for example, are my strength. So some of these beings, or spiritual, whatever they are, I don't know really what to call them, but they can be your friend and they can help you. They're not necessarily there to do something awful to you. I mean, you'll know. If you trust in yourself, you'll know if something's really trying to hurt you or it's not. Do you know what I mean? And some things can look really whack. They can look really strange. They can look like devils, absolutely, but they can be elementals as well. So little funny looking little dragon creatures and stuff like that. So yeah. I know that sounds absolutely crazy. I just like
oh no, trust me.
Oh, good.
No.
Because this stuff is so, like, you know, some of the stuff that you experience, even you're sitting there thinking, whoa, nobody's going to believe this.
Oh, no. I feel the same way with some of the stuff I share. So
yeah, that's funny, isn't it?
So I thought it was interesting that you mentioned, when you were sharing your experience, about the man who was in the bed, I think, next to you, and how you could sense his ancestors, and there was this heavy presence because they were going to be taking him through some type of a process. I've listened to other mediums at other times who have said that there is no negativity or nothing dark on the other side, and that everybody, regardless of what they've done, is at peace. So, and maybe those two things aren't at odds. Maybe people can be at peace while still working through whatever. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're caretaken when you're going through that, and that's why those ancestors came. So I think you're caretaken through that process, and it will be a difficult process. It will be not easy, because you're going to have to really feel and know the choices that you made and how they affected others, and come to grips with that. And, you know, I don't know what other process you go through around that, but it's more of a self-acceptance of who you are. And because I've seen, like, the person that I lost through suicide, it was a person very, very close to me. And that person has shown me their process. And they in life were a person that was extremely depressed, had a very difficult life, went through a lot of hardship. And by the last 2 years of their life, really had given up and just was miserable. Nothing made them happy, and no one could help them. And believe me, they got so much help. And they ended up taking their own life, which was terrible for everyone in the family. And we all went through our own stuff with that. But when she showed me where she was, I saw her in her room that was in the house that she lived in, her bedroom. And everything was this, it wasn't a bright white, not like a fluorescent white. It was this beautiful, soft, gentle white. Everything she was wearing was white. So it was the sort of clothes that she loved to wear, but they were all white. Her bedding was her bedding, but it was all white. Her curtains were her curtains, but it was all white. So the whole room was this beautiful, soft white. And she was sitting there. She wasn't looking at me, but she was going like this. I'll just show you. She was going like this, looking down at her hands and going like this. Now, your hands are your psyche. It's your psyche, right? So she was obviously going through a healing process. She was working through stuff. And that was the feeling that I got. And round her neck, she had been a person who loved the beach. She absolutely adored the sea and the beach. That was her happy place. She had the most incredible necklace I've ever seen in my life of shells. And it was so intricate and so massive. It was massive. And this, it was all these little conch shells. And they've got that little sort of slit down the middle, the like little conch. I don't know if you look it up anyway, but these were cream. And so that's all symbolic. When I have a dream like that, or when I have a visit like that, it's also, everything's symbolic in it. And I have to then go and do investigating. So I looked up conch shells. They have a huge spiritual meaning for Indigenous people, I think particularly in Africa. And they are also about healing. They're about all to do with the sea, and they're all about healing. And I then do a bit of automatic writing as well. So when I get these feelings, I'll just start writing stuff out. And it literally said in the writing, no purgatory. No purgatory. How do you say that? No purgatory. And I thought, whoa, that's interesting. So she was sitting there, not engaging with me, but showing me this process, this healing, and that this necklace was something that they had put on her, that was helping her as well. That had meaning to her because it was shells and to do with the sea and healing her specifically. And then I also felt that there were people with her, like beings with her, helping her through that process, and that she felt extremely peaceful, but that she hadn't, she was processing her life basically. Then later on, she came to me again, quite a few years later, and showed me. She started off in a dream, and she was sitting next to my mother and talking to her, and they were having a conversation, and I was listening. And next minute, she stared straight at me and said to me, "You don't have to make excuses for me, Jody. I take responsibility for all the choices I made in my life." And I was like, whoa, that was intense. And then I woke up. And then in the next dream, when she came to me again, another few months later, she showed me herself in a really odd way. She actually showed me herself as a body passed over. So, you will see yucky images, but they don't necessarily mean, they might be a bit yucky to look at, but if you can just sit with it and go, oh, that's a bit yucky, but and just be comfortable with it. So she showed me herself, and she was decomposing, and it wasn't pleasant. But then so the dream played out, and then she sort of, her head was all floppy because she'd passed away. Next minute, she stuck her head up, looked straight at me like this, and went, "It's just how you said it would be, Jody. And there's butterflies." And I went, "Oh, that's so lovely." I replied to her like that. So I said, "That's so wonderful. I'm so pleased for you." And she was like, "Yeah." And then she just flopped back down, and that was it.
Wow.
So, it's really interesting to see someone go through a process like that. And I've seen other spirits be greeted by ancestors as well. One person felt a lot of guilt. As soon as he passed over, he didn't expect to pass over. He passed over on the operating table. As soon as he passed over, he was stuck. And he was stuck in this void. And he was full of guilt and remorse for what he'd done in his life. And he was going to get fully stuck in it, and the pain of it, and the darkness of it. And so I helped him there. There was another person who had been mentally handicapped in life, and he was completely confused. He passed over quickly too, didn't expect it. And he was stuck because he was like, what the heck has just happened? Where the hell am I? So he was still very much like innocent and a child as he'd passed over, because he'd had such an innocent, childlike life.
Mm.
So, there's those sort of things as well. Yeah.
Wow.
I know,
Well,
it is wow, isn't it? It's pretty crazy.
I could talk to you for another hour, but
That's so cool.
thank you so much for sharing with us today. Is there anything that you would like to share as far as your Facebook page or any other
Yeah.
projects you may be working on?
I think I'm getting to the point where I think I need to write a book. I keep saying this. I need to write a book, but I haven't done it yet. But I'm thinking I need to. But I do really enjoy chatting to people and helping them with their spiritual journey. I know a lot of people out there feel isolated and alone,
Mm-hmm.
and particularly if they're having darker experiences, or they're frightened and scared. I'm not going to sit here and connect you to Jesus and give you some profound views on your life and what direction you should go in. That's your journey, and you've got to discover those. That's a little discovery path for everybody. So I'm not like that. I have started to, through speaking with some people, discovered that I can sometimes, I used to just think that spirits that had passed over came to me and it happened to me. I'm starting to realize that if you give me a picture of the person, sometimes I can connect in with them. So that's a new thing for me. So I'm just, it's like a muscle. I have to work it and I have to get used to it, and I'm still learning. So I'm not like one of those mediums on TV that just suddenly starts spouting a whole load of stuff and knows all this amazing stuff. And it's all, I've got their name and their date of birth and how they died and all that sort of stuff. I'm not that good. I have a different way of connecting with spirit. So, and we all do. We all connect very differently. And I'm just as in awe of those people that do that legitimately. There's lots of charlatans out there, but legitimately do that. I think it's amazing. I'd love to be able to do that, but I can't do that. I do crystal readings, which my readings are very not like tarot cards or tarot cards. They are crystal cards. So they're more about where you're at now in your life, what you probably have already been thinking about or processing, some things that you've been pondering on. You might not have said anything to anybody, you've just been thinking about it yourself. And what my readings tend to do is bring that up through the cards, and I do connect with Jesus on that one. And it's like them, or Jesus or God or whoever you believe in, it's like them going, yes, what you have been thinking, what you have been feeling is true, and you can own it and you can trust in it. So the cards sort of it's pretty magical. I don't know how it works really. It's pretty amazing. So they sort of bring out kind of what you're going through in the present. Sometimes some things will come up about the future or the past, but very much it's usually about what's happening for you in the present. And I might give you a bit of guidance I believe it's from them, it's not necessarily from me, on how to proceed in life. It's like what you might like to do, what might heal you, what you might like to tap into, that sort of thing. Sometimes I will give you a bit of advice from my own experience, but mostly it'll be from them. So yeah, telling you how to move forward.
So what is the best way for people to get in touch with you then?
Through that Facebook page,
Okay.
Jody O'Meara, Jody O'Meara, and O apostrophe capital MEARA, and it's Spiritual Conversations. That's the one too. Yeah, and I don't charge any money, so it doesn't cost you anything. I do ask people if I do a crystal reading or anything, if they want me to try and contact loved ones, to give a donation to an animal charity that they love, or to Hope for Paws in America, because I watch that all the time and love it. Got me through lockdown, that one. So yeah, things like that. I just ask people to do that, because I just believe it's about passing it on.
All right.
Yeah.
So I will have Jody's Facebook page in the description. Jody, thank you so much for sharing your story and talking with us. You are such a beautiful and genuine person. And I've been so challenged by a lot of the things you've said. And
Oh,
unbeknownst
thank
to
you.
you, a lot of the things you said were very applicable to my life right now and things that I'm going through.
Really?
Yes. Like, I mean, like
Interesting.
exactly what I needed to hear.
Oh,
So,
that's so nice. If I
so
can
thank
say
you.
anything to people, look up self-compassion, Google it,
Mm,
and start practicing it. Start really getting to know yourself and being kind to yourself and loving to yourself. You know, the person that comes into your life as your love interest should be a bonus and the cherry on top, not the be all and end all.
mm,
You are the biggest relationship in your life. Yeah.
mm.